Film club.
Small table, higher chairs.
Mm.
Our chairs are so small
I know.
because they're student chairs.
Why is that? Just for authority? Is that psychological?
It's to make the students feel small.
Yeah, it works. I feel small right now.
Thank you very much for joining us in an episode of Film Club. I'm one of your hosts, Andy Harrison. To my right, as always, it's Ian Dalton.
Yo.
Every single week in Film Club, we invite you along to watch a film with us while we dive into some of cinema's best before meeting back here to talk it out.
So this week, we've been doing Malcolm X by...
Spike Lee.
Not Spike Jones, Spike Lee. Well played last week. Well played. Malcolm X is about the Malcolm X, the individual. It's a biopic about this bloke who starts off in life. He's subject to, him and his family are subject to racial slurs, racial intolerance, everything like that. He gets sent away to a boarding school where he gets used to the N-word. He then goes through life as, you know, he starts to like, he meets people, he meets this kind of like gangster, and he's just like, oh, who, you know, I'll join you. He offends his gangsters want to kill him, so he runs away, meets up with his mate Shorty, who is Spike Lee.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Cool, that, isn't it? Meets up with Shorty, they get busted on the first robbery because they're going to try and make some money. He goes into prison, he meets this guy who converts him to Islam and teaches him the values of who it is to be an individual, and then becomes kind of like a preacher / activist. Initially, it's not the best because he like the movement tends to be like all black and, you know, like more like opposing whites, and almost as if violence become an option. Then he has like a pilgrimage to Mecca, and he kind of like realizes the true values of where he's going in his life and what like kind of like how it is and need to coexist as a species together, as humanity together, all colors, and and it kind of culminates to the termination of Malcolm X. He gets shot. So yeah,
far and away, just want to put this out there, our most racially tension-fueled film that we have watched in Film Club.
We started off actually our second episode where we did, what did we do?
Oh, you mean Django?
Django, which in itself is a very racist film, and it's full of slurs, but it kind of does it. We mentioned.
I mean, it deals with racism. It's not like a racist.
Sorry, yeah, it's bad wording. Thank you. But it does it in a Tarantino kind of way, where I'm gonna make sure I'm recording sound. Sorry.
We are using some new microphones this week, just a little bit of a change up. But Andy's very, very paranoid about the audio quality.
It's been a long while since we recorded at your house, and I don't want to do that again. Although I do like ordering pizza. Point is, when we did Tarantino's Django, we had a few issues with the tone it was portrayed. Whereas this is exceptionally serious. And what more is in Spike Lee himself is doing it. Of course, it's going to be serious. Of course, he's going to pay his full attention to it.
I think if I remember right, I could be wrong, but if I remember right, when we did Django, I raised that question to you guys because we did it with Samara.
It's interesting because he did it with Samara as well. Yeah,
and I raised that question of was it okay for Tarantino to be making that type of film that occasionally made jokes within the realms of slavery from a white director, then bounce over to this where you've got Spike Lee is one of the most influential minority directors ever. And obviously for him in particular, it's all about the black community. It's all about him pushing the black community forwards as filmmakers. Like before Spike Lee was a thing, if anyone doesn't know exactly who kind of Spike Lee is, I'm pretty sure he was a film student, so he was actually trained in film.
Really?
But when he was becoming a filmmaker, he was becoming a director, Spike Lee was in a period where like black directors made sitcoms. Black directors made like kind of racist, funny films. You know, in that kind of almost borderline blaxploitation in the way that they were making their humor.
With one exception, by the way, which is more recent, of course, which is actually actually I don't want to draw attention away from Spike Lee. I'll go on a bit later.
Okay, I'm interested.
A really good blaxploit. I can never pronounce it.
Blaxploitation
film is actually a mixtape of the originals, Black Dynamite,
Netflix,
which we need to do in Film Club.
So
back to him and that serious issue, Spike.
At that point, like black directors didn't make big, serious films.
Well, this is 1992. This is out.
So like, for Spike Lee to finally come out and start making this stuff was a huge, huge deal. Like he started making films that were they embraced the black community. They embraced like black actors and like directors and cinematographers and stuff. And like they felt like they were made by those people, not white people sitting in a boardroom somewhere trying to write a black person. They felt like they were really written by those people. And he finally kind of established that black filmmakers are just as good as any other filmmaker. And then a few years later, he gets to make this, which is Malcolm X. And if anybody knows anything about like the movement in black rights in America, Malcolm X is so important.
I'm going to put my hand up and say, hand on heart, I was completely and truthfully ignorant of who Malcolm X was.
Okay, that's fair enough. Like,
I mean, you got MLK. I mean, it doesn't help. This is one of the issues of the film. I'm a white guy in the northeast of England. I know it sounds silly, but don't laugh. It's very true. It's hard to fully grasp and understand. Yes, you understand all these movements and stuff. I mean, it's still going on nowadays. You know, these Black Lives Matter and stuff, everything like that. You read it over, but what you read is only a second-hand, a third-hand account. You try and read the history of America. It's not something we actually learn in school. It's something you actually actively go out and hear yourself. Yeah. So it's very hard not hard. That's a wrong word to use. It was essentially me learning about who Malcolm X was, and what better way through film, which I love. But yes, by this film, it sounds that he was hugely influential. What better way than that end? How he goes on about who he was, and you got that amazing like clip of what he stood for and everything like that. And it obviously goes to someone who I do know, Nelson Mandela. And what better way to represent that than having Nelson Mandela? You know, just shows the pivotal the movement that was Malcolm X.
Yeah, I mean, this is before we get more into the film, but like this is more, regardless of your opinion on the way Malcolm X approached it. Obviously, Martin Luther King was very much against the way that Malcolm X approached the Black rights movement.
It came across like he was more violent until he took a turn and held back a bit.
Yeah.
And he pointed his finger as opposed to Martin Luther King was.
Yeah, like whereas, kind of controversially, Malcolm X at times was accused of racism himself.
Okay.
You know, like the
Which
idea
was addressed in this film.
Yes.
When he goes to How's the Pilgrimage.
And so on the topic of the film, this is what I fucking love about this film, is it's so objective.
Okay.
Kind of just puts it there. And then you get to decide where you fall on that. So like, he kind of puts a lot of, whether or not you feel that what Malcolm X was doing was racist, Spike Lee never injects his opinion that much into this film. He kind of goes, this thing happened, and then therefore this thing happened, and also this thing happened. Where you fall on if that's okay and if it's not okay, that's kind of up to you. I think he hints at it a little bit. I think he hints his opinion a little bit.
Especially towards the end. But is it actually him talking at the end or not? Is it just a voiceover by someone else?
So I was trying to figure that out. I'm not sure. I think it might be somebody else. I'm pretty sure it might be somebody else.
If you know, and if it's something blatantly obvious that we've completely missed, shout it in the comments below if you can.
Yeah, absolutely do. So yeah, like, I think for me, I lie more on the side of someone like Martin Luther King. He was very much of the mind that let's try and get a peaceful resolution to these racism issues, and let's try and live as one.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to give a fair amount of credit, and you've really got to understand the importance of Malcolm X's way of shaking up the norm, of shaking up what we were used to, of shaking up a culture which was ingrained in racism.
Yeah.
And I think you almost needed that shake to get to a better place.
And I remember saying at the end, this is 1992, so I don't know whether situations have changed, but he goes on about how he did not put himself as a Negro, as they call it. He made himself, he was an Afro-American.
Yeah, an Afro-American.
Yeah, Afro-American. And that seems to come across how he came as an individual. I don't know if those terms, well, I know that the first term's not used, but I don't know if the Afro-American's still used nowadays. Again, completely, I am quite ignorant in this whole area. Well, not ignorant, just completely clueless.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of the politics side.
As well. Yeah.
I want to touch on this film and the first half of it that has some of the most heartbreaking flashbacks ever. And I think it's heartbreaking because the whole time I'm watching this, I know they're true.
Yeah. That's the one. That's what fucking hits you.
Yeah. There's the stuff that, like, at first it's all about the racism that he and his family dealt with when he was a child.
And then the CPS
which ultimately led to his father's murder by these people.
The Ku Klux Klan come in and burn the house down. His father gets away. The CPS, obviously his father gets murdered.
Yeah.
The CPS comes and takes Malcolm away from his mother,
who
was quite clearly capable of looking after him.
Yep.
He then goes to a boarding house where he essentially gets bullied without him even fucking knowing.
And one of the most heartbreaking moments is what you were mentioning earlier. The fact that when he's at school, he got called like the N-word so much.
He just thought it was normal.
Thought it was his name.
That really, really hit me. And then obviously later on in prison, he uses it. And the guy goes, why are you saying that? And to him, he's just completely... It's normal, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he's just like, fucking hell, man.
Yeah. But then, so actually the film has a lot of that stuff. And then he goes into like this world of crime and stuff. And it starts to get kind of lost. And at times I was questioning how much of it's real, how much of it isn't and whatnot. It really picks up for me though when he goes into prison.
Yeah.
And he meets,
who's the gaffer?
I can't remember the guy who brings him over to, the religion.
Islam?
Muslim? Islam, thank you. Yeah. I forgot Islam after watching this film for 3 hours. The guy who brings him over to Islam and starts to discuss not only his views, but the breaking down of...
what it's like to be a human. Who are you? I love that scene when he goes, who are you? And he goes, I'm Malcolm. No, I'm Red. And he goes, no, who are you? And he goes, I'm Malcolm. And he goes, who are you? And he just goes, I don't know.
Yeah,
and it's just like that's fucking.
But the fact that he also, it's also that moment where he says, "Well, I'm not Red, I'm not Malcolm, whatever. Like I don't know."
Yeah,
he in that moment he gets rid of those two identities that he had, and leaves room for this third to kind of grow.
It's amazing, and then you see that progression of Malcolm himself as the character throughout the film. See him go from the start. He obviously hits a few flaws in life. He meets this guy. Then that's only half the film though.
Muhammad Elijah. Or Elijah
yeah,
Muhammad.
But even then, that's only half the film.
Yeah.
Because from then on, whether he's considered racist, whether he's considered a bit more activist in his approach to...
Yeah, someone calls him an extremist at one point,
Extremist, yeah. He becomes more extremist in his approach. He still has yet another character arc, which is when he makes the pilgrimage and comes back, and he's more towards like kind of like peace and kind of Martin Luther King style.
Which again, if someone who knows more about this can let us know in the comments below, but I don't know how long it was between him coming back and him being assassinated. Because I'd be fascinated to know how long that period was. And if it wasn't very long, like the film suggests, would we have gotten Malcolm X becoming more akin to Martin Luther King in his approach? Or would he have stayed the course? Would he actually kind of bounce back eventually?
Yeah.
Because it seems, the way Spike Lee presents this, it seems like Malcolm X had this like profound experience when he goes to Mecca. Like absolutely profound experience that changes him a lot. And you can kind of believe it because he's already had one of those in prison.
Yeah, that was because
he's a very open, he seemed like a very open guy to understanding other ways of living and other people's points of view.
Like, and he brings it back with him, doesn't he?
Brings it back with him.
But you can see how that tension goes. He started this movement, and then suddenly he's just like, whoa, hold back. And obviously, the other people get a bit angry, and it's just like, excuse me, sorry. They get a bit angry, and that's what leads to his assassination. Therein lies, so one of my issues with the film, and I'm sorry to go on about the issues, is, as mentioned earlier, just my complete lack of knowledge regarding the subject and the fact that I am totally away from that kind of movement and everything like that. Like, obviously, I know about it and obviously I read about it, but that's my problem. I just read about it. I'm not actually actively involved. I wasn't there, that era. We were talking all those years ago and stuff like that. It's hard for me to truly understand what went on and just understand from an outside perspective and obviously do my best to empathise with it. But I do struggle in that respect. I do severely struggle in that respect. I'd like to understand more. So it's something we're going to go on to in a bit. My other issue is more so to do with Spike Lee's directing / editing. I feel...
okay. Go on.
I feel he has a particular style about him, and if you don't focus your attention and catch on, it's quite there in the start. It's especially there, as you mentioned, towards the end, that time. He's very quick, he's very snappy, especially the dialogue that he uses. It's very this, that, and the other. And suddenly, like, a couple of times, I found myself out the loop, and I was like, whoa, hold on. I had to go back and rewatch it again. It was hard at some points to follow.
Yep. But, like, I completely agree. If you don't give this film your full attention, you'll get lost at some point.
Bit like when we did the other week, we did 2001 Space Odyssey, a bit like Solaris.
Yeah, but like the difference there is that the dialogue's moving quickly in this film. The dialogue just keeps going, so. Whereas 2001's very quiet.
Yeah.
What I will give him credit for, though, is that he actually sets it up in quite a good way at the beginning. Like, you get that intro sequence, which that intro...
That intro, you texted me, didn't you?
Yeah, I messaged you saying...
He said, fucking hell, Malcolm X is 3 hours long. What an intro, though. It's like this.
I did not expect it to be that long. I do think it's a bit long in the tooth. Just minorish, I think.
What, the intro?
No, the whole film. I think it's a little bit too long.
Okay.
But the intro, the credit sequence you get, where it's a lot of his political speech, amazing, over the top of some very kind of like provocative imagery.
Yeah.
Very strong, very powerful. But then Malcolm X, Denzel Washington, goes to the barber and has this amazing sequence.
That's hilarious because obviously the hair
he's
stuff.
Getting his hair done. There's people like shooting dialogue back and forth. Interesting mix in the dialogue though.
Yeah,
because like it's quite quiet. The dialogue's quite quiet in the mix.
Right?
Did you not think?
I'm not gonna lie. I didn't focus on it. I was too busy in that scene because he's getting his hair. I was like, "What the fuck's on his hair?"
It is really good.
Because it's like almost like a dye or something. It's apparently they used to have it back in the day, like, and it used to make the hair straight and stuff. It like chemically whatever. And I was just like, "What the fuck's this?" I actually went later on to research it. What the fuck it was?
There's reaction afterwards when it works.
Yeah, it's like like that. It's to go on that actually. By the way, Denzel fucking nails it.
So
like,
good.
Honestly, I'm glad you mentioned that. I completely forgot. I was going to completely forget about the fact that Denzel is one of my favorite things about this film. I love Denzel in many things. He's class. He's getting on a bit now, isn't he? He's like 40.
Denzel Washington.
Coming towards 50 now, right?
Yeah.
But fucking hell, he absolutely nails this film. Like, just the depth of his character, like, going from the start and especially towards the end and just all the bits in between. How he manages to portray that, how he's a bit of a dick, he's got this kind of...
Because he plays him across quite a large amount of time.
Huge amount of time. You think he's good like 30 years, essentially, maybe, in that character, maybe 25 or something.
Yep.
But fucking hell, how he manages to do that. And you see the change in his... You got to give credit to the... I don't know what you'd call them. How
the makeup team?
Yeah, the makeup team. How they make him look so young, especially with his haircut. And then throughout the years when he's got the glasses on, and he does look a lot like Malcolm X. You see those imagery and stuff like that, and fucking well played. What a fantastic job.
And by the way, does anybody do voiceover like Denzel Washington?
I know, right? No, lad, there's one other person.
Is it Morgan Freeman?
Yeah, Morgan Freeman just absolutely nails every voiceover in the world. But yeah, Denzel does it class. I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it, and I think I'm gonna watch it again with a bit more. I don't know. Maybe I'll do my research into who Malcolm X properly was and the kind of everything about him.
I do think, though, that for someone like yourself, and even to me to some extent, anyone who doesn't know who Malcolm X is, this is a really good starting point.
As mentioned, yeah, because even through the medium of such a film, which we love, what better way to try and engage it than to some extent understand what went on?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is Malcolm X. You can let us know in the comments below what you thought of Malcolm X, or you can hit us up on Twitter, as always.
Next week, go on. Oh, right. Next week, I'd like to continue on the trend of black directors and do Steve McQueen, because there's one film by him I have not seen, and that is Shame.
Oh, Shame.
I really want to do it. I know. You keep telling me to watch it. I really need to do it. And I thought earlier on, I'm thinking, shit, we haven't got one for next week. No. Run about how prolific this was for Spike Lee. Let's fucking do Steve McQueen, because he's awesome. Which you'll see, he's fucking awesome.
Then after that, we'll do Hunger.
Yes, we have to do Hunger. No, let's do it.
Okay. Back-to-back Steve McQueen. We're going to be crying.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah,
anyway, right.
Yeah.
You can join us next week for Shame. Do not miss that one, because Shame's such a good film. Get watching if you want to be part of the club. We'll see you all next week.
Toodaloo. Hopefully this works.